Hey everyone, welcome to Beginnings, the show that asks where do creative people come from. My name is Andy. I'm the host of the show and a writer and performer based in Los Angeles, California. I laughed when I was doing the intro because, Jesus Christ, since the last episode that I put out, literally everything changed. I haven't put one out for a couple weeks because I had traffic school, and then last week was Naomi and my 10th anniversary. And we had a small dinner with a couple of our friends that night, and we didn't have our phones out. This was last Wednesday. And at the end of dinner, people were leaving, so grabbed our phones to check, and literally everything changed. That was the night that, the NBA shut down, where, half of the movie theaters shut down, and Naomi and I made plans to quarantine ourselves, which we've been doing since Friday. So, and we're looking at this. I'm sorry. I'm laughing because just the surreality of this entire thing, I'm still getting used to. I was thinking as I was listening back to today's guest, this is an incredible episode, but I was thinking about mourning and the idea of mourning former conceptions of yourself, getting used to the new reality of a new you, through therapy and things like that, and how you have to move on in therapy to be a better person. You have to mourn the worst person you were, or just the former person. We don't have to put labels whether you're better or worse, but you know what I mean. And I was just thinking of part of the new reality of the world is mourning the previous world we were in. Former guest on the show, Amber Kaufman, I saw her tweet this, I think yesterday, but she was in high school, I think, when 9/11 happened. I'm a little older than her. And she was like, oh yeah, after 9/11, our entire lives changed. We have the security state now. The entire kind of atmosphere in America changed. Society changed overnight. Air travel is so much different than it was before. And this is another one of those events where society has just completely changed. And, we're still getting used to it. And I do not know what's going to be on the other side of this. Anyway, I hope you guys are all staying safe and staying healthy and quarantining yourself, which brings me, of course, to today's episode. What a wonderful guest. Recorded late last year, so months before there was any thought of a pandemic forcing us to quarantine ourselves. This is Larry Hankin. If you don't know who Larry is, why don't I read you his bio right now? Originally from Long Island, Larry got to start doing stand-up in Greenwich Village as a contemporary of Lenny Bruce and Woody Allen. In fact, he opened for people like Woody Allen and Miles Davis. After moving to Chicago and joining Second City, he and a number of other improvisers formed The Committee in San Francisco, one of the most famous improv groups of the 60s. Larry is one of the most well-known character actors in Hollywood, and trying to list his numerous credits is nigh impossible, but a few of the more well-known ones are Escape from Alcatraz, Friends, Seinfeld, Breaking Bad, Barry, Billy Madison, Star Trek Voyager, Laverne and Shirley, and over 100 other roles. In addition, The Loopholes Dossier, a number of writings based on characters he created on stage, was released late last year by BookBaby. Hey, if you're stuck inside for the next 18 months, I would suggest you get Larry's book. You obviously know who Larry is if you've watched any TV in the last 30 or 40 years. Most well known for playing Mr. Heckles on Friends, the downstairs neighbor who hit the ceiling with the broom. And also he played the actor who plays Kramer on the sitcom that George and Jerry create in Seinfeld. And that's literally just the tip of the iceberg of Larry's roles and career, which dates back to like I said, Greenwich Village in the 60s. This is fascinating. He's had a fascinating life, fascinating career, and it's given him a lot of wisdom, which he shares with me and you. Yes, you. Anyway, I won't belabor this intro anymore. If you want to check out other episodes of the show, there's over 400 of them. You can do it on Spotify or Stitcher or Apple Podcasts or Google Play, and there's probably a dozen other places. It's syndicated. You can subscribe on all those places. And I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Andy Beckerman. Although Twitter less and less, as it's become just a screaming nightmare. But thank you so much for listening. And I should be back doing this on a normal schedule from now on. Although, question mark, I don't like doing these over the phone because it's tough to get a good rapport when you're talking about some of these subjects. But how's this going to happen in the quarantine? We'll see. Anyway, thank you so much for listening. I hope you are, like I said before, staying safe and healthy. And now, let's talk to Larry. But I was thinking about, because you were a teenager in the 50s. Were you born in New York City or just in New York?
Born in New York City. Where was I born? I was born in Manhattan General Hospital.
Okay, so
I lived in Jamaica, Long Island.
Okay.
Which is Long Island.
Yeah. My family's from Long Island. My aunt and uncle lived in Huntington for a long time.
Oh, that's on the North Shore, right?
Yeah, middle. It's like the middle.
Yeah.
And my mom,
and then we moved to Far Rockaway, so I'm a South Shore guy.
Oh, yeah,
I grew up on the South Shore.
Yeah. I mean, what was, you're a kid in the 40s and a teenager in the 50s. I mean, what is New York like then? What is it growing up in that area then?
Well, it was a beach community, much like I'd say Santa Monica Beach, Venice. It was just bungalows. It was just bungalows, and I went to public school there in high school. So now, if you go back there, it's gentrified. It's all apartment buildings. When I left to go to college, Syracuse, when I came back 4 years later. Well, I would come back for the summer, but at the end of it, it was my parents had moved away by then, and it was like it was a ghetto, is what happened. All the apartment houses became low rent things. It was not taken care of. All the bungalows were knocked down, so different kinds of families. It was a ghetto. And then I went back a couple of years later with my father. I mean, I'm many years later, just to see what Far Rockaway was like. And then it was gentrified, and all the property, all the beachfront property, was bought up by corporations for hotels.
Yes.
So it's gone.
Yeah.
It was just totally gone.
So the story of New York in general.
Yeah. It's the story of the earth. It's just gentrification. If you're poor, forget it. Move somewhere else.
Yeah,
is what it is.
I mean, what did your parents do for a living when you were growing up?
My father was an accountant. He was kind of a semi-demi CPA. Almost a CPA. My mom was just in all kinds of clubs and stuff. President of this and vice president of that, and nothing interesting. And my father was in Knights of Pythias and sending out letters, and he was a secretary. I mean, there was nothing that I could link up with. There's nothing.
Yeah, because I was reading your bio online, and something stuck out. Something resonated with me, I should say. I think there was something like you had just done a Broadway run. I think it was maybe with the committee. And,
yeah, right.
And it was written. Your dad was something. I can't remember exactly what it was, but
I remember.
So what's next or something like that.
Oh, he said, yeah, and then what? He said, I brought my parents to right before they go in. You know, they came in from Far Rockaway. Yeah, they were still living in Far Rockaway. I bought them tickets right down front. Well, I don't know if they had them free or whatever. I was in the show. The committee opened on Broadway. I think it was a St. James Theater. And I put them up in a hotel right across the street from the hotel, you know, and from the theater. And so they showed up, and I showed them at night right before we went in to do the show. I said, you know, my name was up in lights. Larry Hankin and the rest of the cast, each cast member was up there and he looked at it and he said, "How long is your run?" And we had a specific run. It was 3 months on Broadway. So I said 3 months, and then he just got really very disappointed, and he said, "Yeah, and then what?"
Oh.
And he didn't say, "Wow, my son is on Broadway." No, none of that. Just, and then what? I mean, it just took all the air out of the rest of the 3 months on Broadway.
Yeah. It resonated with me so much because those are the same kind of conversations I have with my parents.
Yeah,
and
they wanted a doctor or a lawyer. That was it.
Are you Jewish?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yes.
Well, I was. Let me put it that way.
Yeah. It's the exact same thing. It's I mean, I almost say verbatim what you just said, where it's like they wanted a doctor or a lawyer. And when I wasn't that, I made a lot of compromises. Like I went to grad school. I was going to be a philosophy professor. And then when I didn't, I left grad school to go do comedy in New York. And that was the end of me compromising. But every little step, there was I took philosophy undergrad, and then I was going to be a lawyer, and then I had a panic attack when I actually thought about what it would mean to study law, let alone practice it. And I'm like, I don't want to do any of this.
Right.
And
exactly.
Finally, I was able to do the thing I wanted to do, but it took a long time for me.
Me too.
Yeah.
I had to go through. But I seemed to. My parents wanted me to go to college, and I didn't want to go to college. But I thought I didn't want to do anything, so I might as well. I mean, fighting with them was just. But once I did college and I graduated as industrial designer, and I was, ready to go to Detroit and design modern futuristic cars. I was really cool as an industrial designer. But I just said no. That's it. My obligations are over. I want to do comedy. Exactly. I mean, what you're talking about. And I was cleaning duckboards in Greenwich Village instead of being in Detroit. At $100,000 a year or whatever, because I was really a very good student, A student. But I preferred to do that, and finally, I started to get good, and was opening for Woody Allen and Miles Davis. So I was really hip, not knowing that that's a curse too, because Lenny Bruce was being arrested, and I was doing the same stuff as Lenny Bruce, only I wasn't doing drugs. That was later. But I was being pulled off the stage by police.
Wait, what?
And people coming at me with beer bottles saying, we don't want to hear that. We want to hear the Kingston Trio. I was opening for the Kingston Trio. And I just called my manager and said, "Hey, man, I'm a middle-class Jewish kid. I don't know what's going on with these police. I'm just talking about what everybody's talking about on the street, It was drugs, sex, rock and roll, this regular stuff." But they were coming at me, and he said, "Join Second City, because you can talk about the same thing, but they own the theater, so nobody's going to come at you with a beer bottle." And people were throwing stuff at me. I mean, it was crazy, man. Thinking about it, because now on television they're doing stuff that the cops took me off of a nightclub stage, where you can theoretically say anything in a nightclub. So it was just, in retrospect, very, very weird and so stilted. Those times, the early 60s.
I mean, what was it? The thing that I think about in my head, and I have no actual access to it besides through talking to people or watching TV, and then I don't know how much, seeing. I don't know how much of that is accurate. If you watch Mrs. Maisel or something like that, I don't know, or I don't know what the reality is of it. But I feel like it's the same kind of culture clash that's going on now.
Exactly.
It feels like as one generation gives way to another generation, you have this like paradigm shift, and you have these kind of like internecine battles going on.
Exactly. So that's what I keep on thinking, that, where are the empty nesters now? These hippies. Where are the hippies now who are, hey, Kent, the students were shot at Kent. It was Kent University, I think. Kent.
Yeah.
They were shot. That's Nixon. They were, students were mowed down by American troops. And I can see that coming.
Oh yeah. I can feel it in the air now. Like we're gonna get.
We're on
back
the cusp
to that point.
of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But I'm not making it up because it's an echo. I've been there. I've done that. I witnessed American students shot on the orders of an American president. That's a fact. And it went away. And we won. Bullshit.
Yeah.
Nobody wins. I mean, just. You modify it a little, but anyway, I hear the echo. Yeah, you're right.
So you could. It's not just it's not just what I've seen on TV. It really was. There was this kind of like feeling of tension in the air.
Whoa. No, there was. It wasn't a feeling. Yeah, it was. It was more than that. It was an active tension. The things were happening. Things were being burned. I remember troops on television, and this is in black and white. This is how long ago and ancient it was. On a black and white TV news program, troops in full gear marching down the streets of Washington, D.C. At night, being led by tear gas. In other words, the streets were being smoked, and the troops had tear gas masks on.
Like some kind of like fascist imagery?
Yeah, it was like, what? This is it, because it was black and white, it didn't look real, but it was. It was troops marching down with gas masks on, loaded guns, marching down the streets of at night, Washington, D.C., and there's people ahead of them with tear gas sprayers. And the streets were abandoned. So it seems unknowable or undoable today. Oh, that can't happen. But it happened once. I mean, why can't it happen again? I don't want it to happen again. But, it's weird. It's really weird.
Yeah. So tell me how accurate this is then. But with your dad, there was this both Jewish aspirational kind tension of like, I don't want the same thing you want, but then there was also this kind of generational tension or cultural tension that added in.
There was a chasm between me and my father. First of all, he was extremely passive aggressive, so you didn't know when it was coming or where it would come from. And then he had a violent temper, so when it did come, it was pretty bad. Leather straps and hitting you in the head. The only defense because I was like, 15 or something like that. But the only defense I had was when my grandmother visited. His mother visited our house, and he got angry at me for something. I think I said something untoward. I don't know what it was. But whatever, he said, don't talk that way to me. Bam, and I was right near a wall. I was about like, my shoulder was maybe against the wall or something like that. And he just whacked me. And I went with it. He hit me, so I let my head hit the wall. I knew it would make a sound. I mean, it was an instant plan. As I saw the fist coming, I said, okay, I'm going to hit the wall, and Grandma's going to see this. And he went, bam, and boom. And she just hit the roof. Don't you ever hit my grandchild like that. She was hollering at her son. So he never hit me again. But he did hit my sister a lot. So, I mean, that was going on in my house. So there was a chasm of incredible proportions,
I mean, was he just... I think a lot about stuff like that. Like, was it just his own repression? Was it just like...
He was. I went to a therapist, later, to figure out what was going on, and basically he said that happens a lot with fathers and childs when the father feels that the child is his rival for either his mother's affection, his wife's affection, or that he's smarter than me. And I was like, I had dyslexic. I still have dyslexia and ADHD. So my intelligence would come out off the wall, quirky, which he didn't understand.
Yep.
And so it was a threat. You don't understand, you just get a little angry, a little more angry, and then you just let go. But he was like crazy, man. And, it was funny. I mean, he would express his anger and such. It was like my sister and I both. We had lived in a house, a 2-story house in Far Rockaway. We would sneak out of our bedroom windows onto a little roof and then onto the garage. And then at night, we would sneak out. She would go out on a date. And one day I come home because I would sneak in at night. And but I had a key, so he couldn't lock me out. But my sister was younger. And I come home, and I always come in the back door. And the doorknob was off the back door. So I went around to the front. Doorknob was off the front door. So there was a cellar window that I knew I could pry off. I would sneak in that way. This only happened one time. I snuck in, and I go upstairs, and I noticed my sister's door is closed. We had 3 bedrooms, my bedroom, the sister's bedroom, and then their bedroom. The doorknob was off of her bedroom. She never closed the door, so when she slept, there's no doorknob on the door, on her door. So in the morning, I woke up and I said, what was all that about? And he said, your sister snuck out, and I followed her. I heard her. I followed her, and she got in a car on the corner, and I ran home. This is my father talking. Ran back to the house. It was only about a quarter of a block. Ran back to the house, got in the car, and followed their car, the car that she got into. Said, I followed them, and they went to this guy's house, a Spanish guy. Went to his house, and I saw that she was with this Spanish guy, and they went into his house. And what did you do? He says, I came home and I took all the doorknobs off, so I know when she came home, she would have to, because she didn't have a key, she would have to knock, and I would let her in. So he discovered, she was dating a Spanish guy. And so, I mean, the craziness of taking off all the doorknobs in the house so he could catch his daughter was one thing. But he also beat her up, too. Jesus. I mean, so it's, weird.
I think a lot about generational trauma. Like, my parents were born right after the Holocaust. And I think about the kind of like the fear that they grew up in. I mean, when did your dad, I mean, how far back does your family go here? Did they come, like, was he first generation? Did he come over from Europe?
Yeah, he was first generation. Yeah, they were all from Europe.
Yeah. I mean, were they like...
Both sides.
Yeah. My grandparents came over in the early 1900s, like late 1800s, fleeing pogroms. And
yeah. That kind of
stuff. I wonder how much of that stuff is like formed them and then formed my parents.
Well, it's obvious because the smarter I got, the more fear they got that I would be discovered. So the more it turned out that they feared. They said, "Don't speak out. Don't because well." I did speak out. I was very funny, and I was opening for Miles Davis and the Kingston Trio, and people were coming at me with a beer bottle. So in a way, they were actually right. And the police were pulling me off the stage. But that was like, Lenny Bruce or George Carlin or Richie Pryor.
Yeah.
They were also, it was the same generation. So and we were in contact with one another, Carlin and Pryor. I mean, we knew one another because we were playing the same clubs. And I was opening for the Love and Spoonful when the cops pulled me off the stage, and I was opening for the Kingston Trio in a nightclub when this guy came at me with a beer bottle, and said, "Get off the fucking stage, man. We want to hear the Kingston Trio." And I was just talking about, religion at that point. But it was, sex god rock and roll.
Right,
you know,
right,
all
right.
this kind of-
That's
It's uncanny that this really happened to me. It sounds like I'm making it up.
no. Because what I'm trying to, I think I'm not trying to excuse your father at all, or but I'm just like
No, he
trying to
was
like
trained. That
to
was him.
place to like understand where that anger came from. I'm
Fear.
like, yeah. Fear and repression of like if they're warning you like don't be yourself, because I was a
Yes.
weird kid and I still am a weird person as an adult, but my parents didn't understand me very very well.
Yeah,
and
but they didn't. That was not their job to understand you. It was your job to understand them.
Yeah.
I mean that's the 50s and the 60s.
yeah. I mean, I don't think it. And that was the kind of cauldron they were formed in as well. And
Yeah.
I don't think it. When I grew up in the 1980s, I don't think there was much. There was a lot of difference. Also, like I mean, I grew up in Reagan's America, which is
Yeah.
You know, there are parallels. Talk about like parallels coming back every
Well, I
like
guess
20,
it's
30
every
years.
generation has to fight their own fight.
Yeah.
You know, and now I just sense the echo, but I'm kind of out of it in a way. But the next generation, I think, are pretty cool, but you know, I can't really tell. I don't hang around. But I tell you, the people who understand me best are people under 30. So there you go.
Uh-huh.
I mean, and that's who I tend to veer towards in
Yeah.
any gathering.
Yeah.
I'm hanging with them.
Yeah. Yes, I get that. So wait, so I am curious though. You know, again, I'm using myself as a sounding board for you, but like, it took me a long time to get out from under my parents' expectations, but
Right.
you got out of them pretty quickly.
No. I went to college. I was, an A student in college, although I knew this is not what I was going to do. But if I have a weird thing, I guess it's mainly it makes me an actor. I focus on what's in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
So I was in college. This was it, so I'm going to do the best I can because I don't know how to do anything else. And so I got A's, but I knew it was useless. And finally, Carl Gottlieb was my best friend in college.
Huh.
We hung out for years, and still to this day. So he wrote Jaws, right?
Yeah.
All the Jaws movies, among other movies too. So when he graduated, he knew exactly what he wanted to do. He wanted to be a writer. That was it, man. And we were friends, so he said, "Hey, I'm going to go to Greenwich Village. Why don't you be my roommate? Because I can't, we can't afford it separately." So we got this, fifth floor, $75 a month walk up in Greenwich Village back in the day when you could do that, $75. Five floor walk up, and we designed. And he started writing for local papers, so he was a writer right out of the box. And I was cleaning duck boards, in a bar after closing.
Yeah.
But there was nothing to do in Greenwich Village that I knew of. I wasn't a writer yet. I wasn't writing. I didn't even know how to write comedy. I didn't know how to the construction of it. So I would hang around. Mainly, I would wait for open mic nights, like Monday nights, Tuesday nights, Wednesday nights, in all the coffee houses. So I would be watching all these Monday night stand-ups. And I go, wait, I was a funny guy in high school. I can do that, And I would get up on the stage, and of course I couldn't. But I didn't know. All I could think of was, I can do it better next week, Or I can do it better tonight down the block. And I go to another Monday night open.
Yeah.
And the learning curve was hard and steep. I insulted a lot of other performers by commenting on them in the green room, not on stage. Hey man, that was like, why did you say? Or hey, what you could do? Why don't you do that? Shut the fuck. Then nobody wanted to hear anybody else, or everybody was jealous of everybody else. And then when you finally go on the road, I remember, somebody would come out with a record, like Dylan. Dylan was there. I mean, everybody was in the Greenwich Village. Cosby, Dylan, me, Peter, Paul, and Mary. Everybody, anybody who's famous today was there. And I remember, they would just, when Dylan came out with his first album, I was on the road. And hey man, I heard this guy. I heard this guy on a Monday night. how come he's got an album and I don't? I mean, it was just jealousy, rampant, childish jealousy. But, it kept you going. I can do it better. Or
Yeah. Yeah, that's the only... what else does keep you going besides like, I can do this better than I did this yesterday.
Yeah,
right?
that was what because I've heard, I would tape myself. I've heard old tapes of when my Monday nights when I was first starting out. I was bad. I was just saying ridiculous things that I thought was funny, but nobody else did. But I thought, okay, I can change it, But within 6 months, I was opening for Woody Allen and Miles Davis. So obviously, I had it in me. I just had to clear out all the chuffa, all the tapes of my parents saying, you're not good enough to do anything.
Was that the thing? Like, the thing that I think about is like, was it as risky then to try to do this stuff as it is now?
Yes, the beer bottle guy.
Right, but even that, just like the feeling like, to me, the fear of trying to do this and failing, like this.
It never entered my mind. Now it does. But no, back then I had no fear of what I was going to do on the stage. Like, I know what, because I didn't write anything. I'd always talk about my day or the other day when that went well at another Monday night. I would remember the good stuff, which is why I progressed so fast. I had a good memory for the laughs. It was just instinctive.
Right.
If I got a laugh, man, I would not forget how that went. But when I went on to stage to do new stuff, there was no fear at all, and I don't know why that was. But when I got off the stage, I knew I didn't do well, and that's when I said, "Yeah, I can tighten that up. I can do that better, or maybe I should not talk about that. That didn't work."
But was there even like an existential fear of, like, to me, this is my dream. All right, to write comedy. Right, it's my dream.
Wow.
What happens if? What happens if it fails? What happens if I go to do it, and I know that I've tried all this other stuff in life, and I know that I've compromised on a lot of things. The risk of, because I came from like a pretty middle class background. I didn't have a safety net. It's not like I could, I could move back home to my parents, I guess, but that I don't think I would be happy.
Yeah, no.
Living in Pennsylvania.
Giving up.
Yeah, right.
No.
So
I'd rather die.
So the risk of that had held me back for like most of my 20s. I finally was able to do it in my late 20s, like get past my parents' desires for me,
right? And
really okay, I'm gonna. It was almost like I had to self-sabotage myself in grad school.
Yeah,
and then move to New York. So how, you went to college, you're like, well, I know this is what my parents want, but so I'm just going to do this, but then I'm done. How did you make that leap where I'm like, I'm just done with my parents' expectations?
I think this is the dyslexia or the ADHD that was the upside of it, because it doesn't have many upsides. But I never contemplated, considered, or thought there even was a future. I was always in the now, and that is not good. That's, be here now. Yeah, sometimes. But sometimes, hey, man, I'm saving a little money so I can make a film in 2 months. That's thinking about the future. No, I never thought. So when I was here, I was in college, I was doing the work because I like to draw. So that kind of kept me focused on the industrial design part of it. But the math and the trigonometry and all the other bull was... but when Carl said to me, okay, we're graduating, why don't we go to Greenwich Village? I said, cool, because it was now. I didn't think, well, I'm going to fail or I'm going to clean duck boards or how am I going to make money? None of that. I was always in the now. And as I grew older, I saw that the now doesn't work now anymore.
Yeah.
Then I got to start thinking about how am I going to pay this rent, for the next couple of months. The rent, everything was paid for and taken care of while I was going through college and high school and public school. And then all of a sudden I had to take care of me. So the fact that I was cleaning duckboards was I was taking care of myself. Hey, I'm paying my half of the rent. I'm cool. Now, okay, back to now. Although it took me years to start thinking about the future. And back then that worked. That's what kept me going. I can do it better next time. Next time meant, tomorrow, at this other place, the open mic night. But never ahead. I never thought more than a week ahead, actually. So that's what got me through then. But that was then. That's not now.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting, too, that you were part of a scene. I think I don't know what show business was like in the 50s and 60s, but I think there's a lot of people now that are very calculating about things. Like I went I went to New York without knowing anything about like what to do. Like I had no connections. I had no understanding of how you actually get into the business in any way.
Me neither.
And I joined UCB because I loved the Upright Citizens Brigade. I loved
committee, the Second City, same thing. Yeah,
I loved it. And when I was there, it started to. I think the atmosphere started to change, and it started to be from people who like loved doing this and loved comedy to a calculating move. I'm going to join this, and that'll be my springboard.
Right. Yeah, there was a turn, and I was ahead of that turn. That's why I never got into SNL.
Yeah.
SNL. Because that was before that turn. Nobody calculated getting into anything. I got into Second City because I didn't like people coming at me with beer bottles and the cops. I told my manager that outright. Hey, man, I don't want to do this if I have to put up with that. So he suggested Second City. I auditioned for Second City. I got in, which was easy then because that was just another thing. It wasn't famous until they did, Second City TV and Belushi and all that.
Right.
He changed things. And then when 5 of us got together in Second City and said, hey, let's go to San Francisco and start our own company, we can do a lot better. We can make a lot more money if we start our own thing. So we went to San Francisco and son of a gun, we were ahead. So again, it was just the now. It was all the now. I didn't think about failing or what if. No what ifs. And then finally the Hollywood started drifting up. It was only $35 for a round trip plane fare from Hollywood to San Francisco and back. So people would come up, spend the night in San Francisco, see a show, our show, go home the next day, and it was $35, if they brought their wives or their girlfriend, whatever. So it was fairly cheap, and we were then, which is a miracle, and we never thought about this ever, but this is what was going on. We were in a hit show in San Francisco, really funny, at the top of our form. We were really, really cool. And getting a reputation as good as Second City in Chicago. So the best of Hollywood would be flying up, because they could afford it, and watching us, whereas if we went down to Hollywood, we could never get in to see these people. So, but they were coming up to see us at our best, in a show that's a hit, that's really funny. So they were being called, our company was being called to go down there. And I didn't want to go down there because I thought, I don't know where I got this from, but I thought, no, that's just face acting down there, close-ups.
Yeah.
And I didn't, I don't want close-ups. I want to be the whole body funny. I just want to, and so I wanted to stay up there for the rest of my life and just improvise. Because it's like being a stand-up, only even better. Because you don't even have to remember what you did.
Yep.
They would just call up out of the audience, hey, be a pilot, and be waiting for a bus. Great, thank you. I never would thought of that. And boom, so it was instant, and the rest of the day was all to myself, and I just go in and improvise. So I held out as long as I could, but they were starting to get a lot of money. I would go down every once in a while, but I didn't like the people. I'm not a joiner. I just like San Francisco.
Yeah, we were talking about this before we started recording, but I was saying that, like, we're similar in the sense that like I feel like I'm a contrarian in like I want to be part of groups.
No, you're
and then
not.
once I am part of that group, I try to distinguish myself as much as possible. I have this like I need to be a radical individual. I need to know that I am singular in some way. It's a very deep existential thing. It's not true. I'm not.
I exist. I am here.
Yeah.
I am me.
Oh yeah, 100%. This like Cartesian, like no, I am myself. I exist. If I am a singular person and there's no one else like me in the world or has ever existed,
So where is he?
There's something.
Why can't I contact that? I know it, but it's hard.
Yeah, and it's also not right. Like I'm.
Well, I mean, I now that we're talking about it, I remember rabbis telling me to just shut up. Because I had to be bar mitzvah, which was a terrible, terrible ordeal. I remember, just terrible. But I would be asking questions. You have to go to school to learn how to be bar mitzvah, and I would be asking questions. And I remember the rabbi shouting at me, "It's not for you to question. It's just it was bad. Don't question." Do not question the Bible. Do not question yeshiva. Do not question your rabbi. Do not question your religion. It is not for you. And I would go, what? I wouldn't talk back, but it was bizarre. But there was nobody to give me the other side of that.
Yeah.
So I would just take it and keep my mouth shut.
So did you have any kind of allies? Like I at least had like a group of friends that were also weird or quirky. And we had each other's backs, pretty much.
No, because of the ADHD and the dyslexia, and I have a touch of what's that? Not Alzheimer's, Asperger's.
Uh huh.
And that tends towards being a loner. You're not comfortable. I am not comfortable in crowds.
Yeah.
I remember going for a long time, man. I would find the loophole in the crowd. And what I meant by that, to me, that was my definition. I would find the place in any kind of party or, anything. There are places that are quiet, and I'm not kidding. I like under a grand piano, a piano with legs.
Yep.
I would sit under the piano.
Yeah.
And people would bend down and go, "What are you doing under there?" And I said, "Just nothing, just, sitting here." And so they would talk to me for a little while, because that's curious. But then they would just think, well, the guy's like nuts or quirky, or maybe he wants to be alone. So they would just, wander off. There's a guy under the piano over there. But that's the extreme that I would use. But there are places in any gathering which is neutral, and I would always seek that out. Nowadays, I find out that famous people do that, whether or not they have dyslexia or ADHD, where they will just sit in a chair and let people come to them.
Yeah.
And I think, that's the useful part of what I was trying to do. I would just be extreme and quirky about it. I would go sit under a piano or behind something or in another room. But now I can navigate a party by just sitting down and being quiet, and that's okay. Then people talk to me, or I can talk to them. But that's part of the quirkiness of my challenges. Well, I mean, everybody has challenges.
Yeah,
so that's just mine.
But I think it is interesting. I was desperate to know in this universe that I was singular in some way. I think it definitely goes back to my being the smart kid in school and being continually praised for that kind of stuff, and to the point where I'm like, okay, well, this is my identity. I am the smart kid. I am singular. There's no one else like me. There's something again, which is
I'm the dyslexia kid. It was the same thing, though.
Yeah, there is this like I don't and it's like I was raised in this kind of like stew of fear, I think.
Yeah,
and it led to it mutated in different ways in my brain. into like fear of being just part of the mass of people in some way and needing to distinguish myself.
Yeah, I always, my parents would always say, here's what I heard all my young life. Larry, what if everybody thought like you? So and then finally, years and years later, when I started to make money as an actor and started to normalize myself, that I did fit somewhere, I was starting to say, holy cow, everybody is like me, which I didn't like, but it was true. Oh, man, I mean, yeah, everybody does think like me. I want this, and 90% of the people I meet want this. But I never had a karass, a gang of yours.
Yeah. People
you don't know that are like you.
Yeah.
That didn't, I'm only discovering it now in the last year or two where, there are people who think like me or like what I write or like what I do.
Yeah.
I never noticed that or I never counted it.
Yeah.
Because no matter what I did when I was a kid, was not good enough for my parents, so therefore I just carried that along. Oh, it's not good enough. It's not good enough.
Yeah, I mean that's been my struggle basically. Is like who are the people that have the same kind of brain? But part of it's from this like kind of like struggle to differentiate myself so much that I like went to the margins of everything and then had to come back and realize like, oh yeah, no, I'm not
I find
like
that ultimately that's way too complex. It's, hey, forget anybody saying anything, good or bad. Just do whatever you do.
Yeah.
And hey, that's bad. Or wow, that's great. Has nothing to do with anything. If you want to be somebody. In other words, it sounds like kind of contrary to those two things. But yeah, you just do what you have to do. And if you keep doing it, you'll get great at it.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, how did were you a sensitive kid? Like when
who knew? They try to knock whatever sensitivity out of me. That was not good. It was dangerous. It was the pogroms. It was you're Jewish and you're smart. Not good. It doesn't matter. You're black and you're smart. You're white and you're smart. You're small and you're smart. You're tall and you're smart. You're fat and you're smart. It has nothing to do with you being smart. It's just forget it, man. It's everybody has something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rosanna Dana. It's always something. It's always something. Forget it, man. It takes it. Luckily, a lot of kids nowadays know that earlier than others. And as Dylan said, he was born doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and we're all born doing it. It's just knocked out of you or stepped out of you or kicked out of you. That's what happened to me.
I mean, how do you recapture it then?
You don't recapture it. You just stop the tapes. I mean, it's always there. They can't kick you out of you. It's always there.
Yeah.
But it goes deeper and deeper to hide. But I just found out as long as I okay me, I'm ahead of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell you what I have. Therapy is really good, because there's somebody who gives you affirmation. But also I started to learn music. I never was into music, but I started to learn the guitar a couple of years ago. And the great thing about learning music, anything, piano, accordion, whatever, is it's a self-teaching mechanism because the feedback is your ears. So if you're playing not well, you should know you're not playing well, or you can do it better, but you don't need an audience to not laugh or laugh to tell you I can do it better.
Right.
You can hear it. If not, record it and listen to it back. But it's a self-teaching mechanism. Well, if you can teach yourself and hear it to be better, that wipes out automatically a lot of negative tapes. It's the negative tapes. I was just listening to a country western tune the other day. It's called, I don't even know the name of it. It's about a father leaving a little kid. It's on the radio now. It's a very contemporary country western tune. Something like I won't be gone for long, or I'm not leaving, or if I do leave, I'll be right back.
Uh-huh.
It's about a father telling a kid, don't worry about the monsters under your bed. I'm always with you.
Okay.
Even if I'm not in you. I'm not going nowhere. Okay. So I was listening to it, and the first time I listened to it, I started to tear up. And I go, wait a minute, I'm not that kind of guy. I don't react to art emotionally, that emotionally.
Yeah.
I mean, or a country western tune. Because I listen to country western all the time because it's easy to imitate on the guitar.
Yeah.
You know, three chords and the truth. So, so I started to question, okay, now what was that all about? And I thought, my God, now there's something that was totally buried that I always wanted my dad to be for me. Like, hey, don't worry. And all of a sudden, this is when I was 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 up to 15. Never got that, but I never knew about it until I heard this silly, emotional country western tune. I'm talking about a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
And I go, whoa, man, if that's under there, what the hell else is still in there? Because I've been working on it for a long time.
Yeah.
Just loosening up. And all of a sudden, these little keys, I guess that's what a therapist does. He taps something and you go, okay, now why are you crying? Or why are you laughing? Or why do you think that's funny? He'll get into it. And that's all it is. And that exercises it. Or it shuts the tape off.
Yeah, I used the wrong metaphor because it really is a process of excavation. There is a you somewhere. There is some core that gets buried under certain either cultural expectations, parental expectations, whatever, wherever you're getting those from, or just their stuff. And stuff is a very broad way of saying whatever their hangups are.
Yeah, I mean, I always when I was watching movies, it would always click in that when the hero or the underdog is being beaten up, and bloody, and then all of a sudden he gets beaten up so much that something happens and he just rises and okay, God, I always thought of that as the image, not the action, but the image of, oh, I see, you got to go really deep to find out where you're going to take your stand. And just saying, hey, I don't care if you think I'm bad. It's the same thing. I'm going to do this anyway. I just had a friend of mine on my Facebook page call me out for something. I thought, a really good friend. We go back years and years. And he goes, Larry, I never thought I would hear a friend of mine say anything like that. And I go, what? Holy cow. And it affected me because we've been buddies and on the same page for years. And all of a sudden, but I totally dismissed and I said, well, he ain't me. So cool, and we both said, okay, you think your way. And I think on here, we part company, but we're still friends. But in the old days, I would have taken that as, oh my God, I better change the way I think. My best friend doesn't like what I just said.
Yeah. And
that's stupid.
How long did it take you? Because I was the same way for a long time until it would even be like something minor about like a movie. Like a friend of mine would say, we'd seen a movie and they would not like it and I did like it. Yeah. And I would just like chuckle and I wouldn't say anything because I didn't want to disagree.
Right.
I didn't like the tension, or I didn't like I thought maybe it said something about me that they saw something that I didn't see. And I'm like, oh, maybe they're right and I'm wrong. I saw things as right and wrong as opposed to there being a kind of like a wide range of things you could believe about.
Also, the other thing I found out is it's okay to be wrong. I mean, totally wrong. I mean, what if he was right?
Yeah.
I mean, okay, but it doesn't change anything. And I'm talking about self, not change between me and him.
Right.
I'm talking about, okay, I was wrong.
Right.
Nobody wants to say I was wrong. I mean, nobody. How did you get to that place? Was it just therapy? What was it in your life that led you to to kind of like relax a little bit about things? I don't know. I really do a lot of research on my own because I know factually that I'm dyslexic and ADHD. So there is a learning challenge there that is obvious and quantifiable and real. And so I have to check, Because mainly the way it manifests itself is I misinterpret things because dyslexia looks at things totally different. It's like if I look at a page without a paragraph, just one from the top of the page down, there's no paragraph stops. All that I see is a blur of letters. There is no word that stands out. It's just I'm overcome by input of not information, of letters. So I can't read it. What I have to do is maybe hide half of the page, or I was taking Adderall for a while, was what they give kids, which helps me focus, and it does let me see a whole page as information to read. But it affected, the side effects were just too drastic, even though I was taking small amounts.
Yeah.
So fine, when I see a page that has no paragraph, I'll just understand that, okay, I'm going to probably misunderstand, so let me read it twice. It's a lot of work, but hey, I got ADHD. What are you going to do? I'm dyslexic. You just adjust. You adjust, not fight it.
Yes.
You just do. You think, okay, this is what is.
Do you think that pushed you early on to, if you have trouble with the written word, it pushes you into, you went into design and then you went into performance. Do you think,
and not writing.
Yeah. Do you think that's
just
like
talking about and improvising? I'm a terrific. I was. It's a muscle. I haven't done it in years.
Yeah.
But I was a terrific improviser, because that's the way dyslexia works best. Is off the top of your head. It comes up with images that normal people find it hard to. In other words, it combines things that sometimes shouldn't be combined, and I can come up with a great idea or a stupid idea. But because I finally found out, it's dyslexia. It's not that I'm stupid. It's that it's making, whoa, it's a helicopter right outside the window. There's that made me aware that, it's not me, it's me. It's not something bad. It's just adjust to what is, and that is I interpret things in a little different way than everybody else.
Yeah. Do you think there was culturally in the 60s, there was an opening to allow people
LSD.
who were... Really?
So really?
You think that affected people in general? I was wondering if it was like an opening for like people who were like quote unquote quirky. That could be part of the larger culture.
I don't know. It affected the larger culture. It affected the culture that I was in, which is a culture within a culture. But it's personal. It opened me up to say that, hey, I'm okay. I mean, I think different and I interpret things different. With the internet, it's really weird, man.
Yeah.
Because where it's the instructions, click here, I'm always clicking the wrong place. I can't find the right click. It's weird because there's too much information on the page. Very clear, concise pages, I'm okay. But to this day, I just go with it. I don't get angry. I don't get frustrated. I go, okay, let's just slow down on this page and think twice before you click on a button.
And you think acid in the 60s relaxed you in that way? Did it change,
it opened my mind
your thinking?
Up to there's nothing bad. The other people, hell are other people. Janae, I think. Hell is other people, but hell is your other thoughts, is your tapes. So it opened me up to, no, Larry, whatever, if you're wrong, then you're wrong. And if you misinterpret, then you misinterpret. It's not a judgment, it's a fact. You misinterpreted this. The next time, slow down when you get on a page. That's all.
Did you grow up with shame for that?
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah, I was shy about everything because I was afraid I would overstep my boundaries. I would say the wrong... I have, to this day, in any meeting, I will eventually, if the meeting is long enough, say the wrong thing. I mean, so now I'm just expecting it. Okay, we're going to go into this meeting, or if I go in with somebody else, I'll let them do the talking, and I'll just add a couple of things. But if it's me one-on-one or one in front of several people, I'll audition, I'll do my part. But if they start talking, like, let's talk about the part a little, I'll say the wrong thing. I mean, not all the wrong things, just one of the things where they'll, pull up a little, and I'll say, hey, okay.
Yeah, my brain does that. I sometimes panic in those moments, and then my brain just throws something into my consciousness.
Yeah.
And I just say that, and then it's the wrong thing.
Yeah.
And then I spend the next day or two being like, why did I say that? What's wrong? Yeah. Just yelling at myself in my head.
What you do, I guess. There's two things. The music helps my thinking. It straightens it out. It helps the dyslexia focus more accurately. It's focus that dyslexia fools with. But if I say the wrong thing, it's like forgiving yourself. But I don't even go that far. It's just I'm okay with it. I don't know what the hell that is. Maybe it's Siri. I think it's Siri. Anyway, if I say, but if you do it enough times, like say it's okay with yourself, you'll stop doing that. So it gets less and less. I mean, I say less things, but still, I mean, to this day, I'll say something weird. You know what it is? I'm also a talker. I'm a stand-up comedian.
Right.
I say too much information.
Yes.
And so that's how I kind of cope or adjust to me saying the wrong thing. I don't talk as much in meetings. And therefore, I don't get to the point where I go and say something wrong. So that's an adjustment. That's all. But it's not wrong. And I'm not crazy.
Right.
As a matter of fact, I think I'm pretty smart for coming to those kind of conclusions of how to deal with the mistakes.
Yeah.
But it's fine. So it's okay.
But I'm definitely like, I know that like I grew up with the feeling like, my parents were not cruel to me at all, but definitely like they reinforced the idea that think differently, that I'm weird sometimes.
Oh, here's another hint as to that helped me was somebody who told us about selling. One is always selling. I was asking somebody who's a rep of a corporation in Hollywood. They try to get laws better for their people they're representing. I don't know whether they called
like a lobbyist.
A lobbyist. I was talking to a lobbyist about. I wanted to sell my book. I was saying, how do you because she was very successful. I mean, in the millions of dollars she would work. I said, what's the selling thing? She says, always be selling. Always be selling. That's the only thing I can tell you. Always be selling. So I tried that, and then the other thing somebody else said to modify that, because always selling and people just get, hey man, back off.
Yeah.
So I said, yeah, but here's the thing. You're not looking for a no. When you're always selling, if you got something to sell, what you're looking for is a yes. You say, yeah, okay, I want to buy that, or yeah, we're going to do that, or yeah, let's do this. So if they say no, that's not a no to me. That's not a yes. So I'm talking to the wrong person. So it has nothing to do with a judgment of whether, no, you're wrong. It's, I'm sorry. I thought you were interested in what I had to say. You're not interested in what I have to say. I'm looking for a yes. You're the wrong person. Thank you. And then I just go on. And it really levels the field and cools me out. I'm not looking for a no. So your no has nothing to do with me. I'm looking for a yes. And it's my mistake to be talking to you. It just took me this long to figure that out.
Right. I mean, are you comfortable with again, my knowledge of the 60s is through media. So, it's painted as an anti-establishment kind of time, right? Anti-commercial. All right. I don't know if that's true or not, or if it's just like the mythos that was handed down. So, and the same thing, like when I was growing up, there was this idea of in the 90s, like, you don't sell out. You're
Okay. I got an answer.
So I'm like, are you comfortable? Like, how do you get comfortable with that? Because like, it took me a while to become comfortable.
Some person who was really wise told me this, and that got me through all of that. And it was Grossman, Albert Grossman, who was at the time in the 60s, Dylan's manager. And he was my manager for a couple of seconds because Dylan was a big fan of mine. He said, no, you got to handle this guy. He's really funny. And Grossman's attitude was he's too tall and he's not funny enough. So he said, I handle folk people. You know, he didn't want to get involved in comedians. But I did hang with Albert for a while. And so we got to talking, and I was in his backyard, and he had this, we were just talking. And it was the time when Dylan was going on the Ed Sullivan Show, and they wanted him to change the song. And Dylan refused to, so he didn't go on. So the news was, Dylan turned down the Ed Sullivan Show because they wouldn't let him sing the song he wanted to. And that was big in the 60s. And so was Dylan, you know, so anything he did was. So I asked him about that. About three days later, I was talking to Albert, and I said, you know that thing that Dylan did, you know, the other day? Yeah, what about it? I said, what's the deal with selling out? You know, because that was what everybody said. Dylan refused to sell out and not change the thing. So I said, well, what's the deal with selling out? And he just smiled, this like Buddha smile at me. And he just said, Larry, there's no such thing as selling out. And it just cleared everything right up. You do what you got to do, man. You do what you want to do or you have to do. That's I mean, this fucking judgmental crap. It's just...
Yeah.
It was just so beautiful. The other thing he said to me at another time was I was looking, we were in his backyard. He's got fruit trees there, orange trees and a lemon tree, I think, something. And I was thinking, I don't know what the question was, but it was about show business and, you know, hey, what should I do? And he didn't answer that. What he said was, to my question about show business, he said, he was looking at the lemon tree. And he goes, Larry, have you ever eaten the fruit of a tree that grew from a seed that you planted? And I go, no. And he goes, And he walked away. Boom, another beautiful. And every once in a while through life, somebody that, you know, some random guru will walk along and just say a sentence and you remember it for the rest of your life. And those two things, especially the first thing, got me through a lot of bad times or bad judgmental things.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as selling out. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
It's you do what you have to do, man. And if you think that's fine, then it's fine. Other people you sold out. Okay. What's next?
Yeah. So, I mean, is it just like, to me, a lot of the stuff is like my parents' voice in my head, right?
Yeah.
When did you, I mean, I don't know if you ever get past it, right?
But you don't do anything.
Yeah.
You just focus on you and you. You're right. Even when you're wrong, you're right. You know, if I'm right and somebody proves me wrong, then I'm wrong. Okay. It was just like I was right.
Yeah.
Now I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Okay. There's no shame in it. Everybody's wrong at some time. I used to hang around with a lot of winners. What I mean by that is they were sports guys and they were like, you know, basketball stars or football stars. We performed and win the committee for a lot of sports things, you know, gatherings and stuff like that. So here's winners, people who are, and we had something where, I don't know, about winning and stuff like that. And one of them, all of them said to me, you know why I like that? What this performance thing was? And I go, I'd like to know. He said, well, because, you know, only winners know that you can't win all the time. But winners know that, and nobody else does. Because they don't care about losing. They just want to, that's not what they're going for. Losing is not what they're looking for. So they don't judge that it's wrong to lose. I wasn't even looking for that. I'm looking to win. So next time I can do it better next time. They don't judge themselves. You look at, anybody on the Lakers right now. They miss a lot of shots, man. They don't go, oh, fuck, I'm fucked. I'm going to be fired. No, they just heave it up again. Not missing the basket is not what they're about. That's not what, Tommy Lasorda said to one of his young players, it was the first time, he was up from the minors, and he was a star in the minors. His first year, he was a star too. So now it was amazing. Mm-hmm. Not only was he a winner, hitting a lot of home runs and making incredible plays, but then the second year, I was in the Dodgers, and the second year, he just went into a slump. I mean, he couldn't catch a ball. He couldn't hit a ball. I mean, it was just awful. And he was getting really depressed, which, of course, makes you worse. So Lasorda was telling the story about, so he says, well, what did you tell him? Because in the next couple of weeks, he started to, really come back. And so, what's your advice to somebody who's totally folding? He said, I just told him, he says, there's a reason you're here. There's a reason. He says, so forget about why you're not going to be here. You're here because you're a champ. Just get on with it, will you? And stop bothering me and the rest of the team. You're in a slump. Who's not in a slump? Who hasn't that, stop with that bull is what he said. Judging yourself. Oh, my God. He says, you're here for a reason. Just keep that in mind. And the change in me was from when I would think back in history, and I would think of all the bad times, and I'd think, I'm no good. Now when I think back in history, I can only remember the good times, and I'm great. There is no bad times. Yeah. I mean, obviously there are bad times. Right. But the focus of my brain now is to only go back to when it was good. But I couldn't think of a good time a couple of years ago, way back when. I said, when was I good? Or what did I ever do that my parents loved? Or I couldn't think of one. So that keeps you back.
I mean, there was never any kind of reconciliation. Mark Maron has this line where he says, "Showbiz is not your parents."
Yeah.
And
there you go.
I think about it a lot, and there was some. I expected. I was on the phone with my dad the other day, and he had some bad family news to tell me, and I was like, "Oh, I should tell him some good stuff that just happened to me here."
Yeah, right.
And I expected "Oh, that's great," and it was just like, "Oh, okay." And I'm like,
no, right. Some people don't want to be disturbed.
I'm like, oh, I really did expect a change. I've never got that. He's anything my wife does, he's doting over. He is like,
oh, that's interesting.
Which is its own special kind of neuroses.
Yeah.
But I really did expect something, and I'm like, oh, I'm never gonna get a different reaction from him. It's always going to be the same kind of reaction. So I should stop.
Expectations, man.
I should really.
I guess.
Did your mom have any kind of different reaction?
She was great, but my father was just wearing her down. Man. Now they're both gone, but now I look back and she had a really hard time. She really did. But she muddled through. She was a good wife, good mom. My dad just didn't know how to cut it. I mean, maybe he had Asperger's. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, but he just, when I was a kid, I was a great kid. I'm talking about 3 years old and younger. All the relatives would say, "Oh, you were such a wonderful kid, always smiling, always happy." So, but then as I got my own mind together, 3, 4, 5, you start, thinking of yourself. He couldn't cut it. He couldn't handle it. And it just got worse as I got older and started to think in these unorthodox paths and words. And he just got angrier and angrier. I mean, he literally, I've made my peace with him, but I have seen my father beat my sister terribly, to where my mother had to pull him off, So that kind of affects one.
Yeah.
I to this day, I don't know exactly how it affects me, but I do know that that's kind of crazy.
I mean, I wonder if there's because my dad is not like that, but
I hope not.
I definitely push back against who he is as a person, and so I wonder how much you've pushed back as a person against him to go to the other way.
Sneaking out. It was he was passive aggressive until he got angry, but 90% of the time you didn't know what. So I would just be passive aggressive back. I would sneak out at night, through my window off the porch roof, sneak back in, some way. He never knew that I was sneaking out, or I would. I don't know. There wasn't much pushback. I didn't know. I didn't see anger as a solution. Passive aggressive is hidden, but when he did get angry, it was obvious that's way over the line. I mean, I knew that.
Yeah.
He would either beat me or beat my sister, so I couldn't go there. It was a no-no for me, not because I thought it was wrong. It was just that. Well, I guess, yeah. I saw the damage it was kind of doing. So that wasn't available to me. So I would just keep my mouth shut, which is not cool at all. And I would just sneak around or blah, blah, blah. Or the funny thing was he's the accountant. So that was the last thing I would ever care about is money. I mean, just money was not an entity.
Yeah.
Now, the upside of it, there's no question of me selling out or not. I mean, I was cleaning duck boards when offered a huge amount of money to go to Detroit, and I chose to clean duck boards at night in a local bar. But there was no judgment about it. I would just, this is cool too. So I that was the only, and that probably was resistance to my father. I'm not going to be a success. Screw you.
Yeah.
I mean, I was damaging myself in a weird way. But it kept me in Greenwich Village, and I finally started doing stand-up, and I loved that. I would never found it if it wasn't for cleaning duck boards and Carl.
I mean, that seems like a nice place to end. Well, how do you feel?
Cool. No, I feel fine.
I can't thank you enough. Thank you so much for coming over.
Well, thank you for, having me.
Yeah.
It's a good conversation.
And we'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye, oh, bye, oh, bye, oh, bye, oh, bye, oh, bye, oh, bye.